Hi, this is Brett Ingram, entrepreneur and award-winning product creator, and today I want to ask you, should you build a personal brand or a business brand? There's lots of talk about branding out there right now, and when we think about branding and we think about it sort of in the context of history, in terms of business, we think about brands like Coca-Cola or Nike or Apple, and these brands that maybe spend tons of money on advertising where they're not really even featuring their products. They're more trying to make people feel a certain way about their particular brand, so they associate positivity with it. The brands are already ubiquitous. Everybody knows Coca-Cola exists. Everybody knows Apple is out there and Nike. So it's not that they need to advertise specifically to get brand awareness. People are already aware that they exist. For them, the issue becomes making people feel positive about the brand, making people associate the brand with celebrities or athletes or people that they like. So that way, people are more inclined when they go to the grocery store shelf or the department store shelf to pick up the product that they are selling as opposed to their competitor. That type of branding is not exactly what we're talking about. So there's a lot of talk about branding, and a lot of people in small business and a lot of solopreneurs think, well, that doesn't really apply to me because what you're talking about is sort of institutional advertising where you're pouring tons of money from a massive budget into something to try to build this sort of thing in the ether that nobody really understands. Branding nowadays isn't so much about that anymore. Not that that doesn't exist, but the kind of branding that we're talking about is a lot more down to earth. It's a lot more practical. And nowadays, it's a lot closer linked to direct response advertising. So in the past, you had your general advertising that was designed for branding purposes. And then you had direct response advertising, which was designed to get users and visitors and prospects to take action, right? They wanted a response from that. Branding is sort of, nowadays with the internet and the way everything has sort of evolved, it's a little bit more muddled. Now, the general branding is sort of along the same lines, and it's all sort of interconnected with direct response. So when we talk about branding in this context, what are we talking about? What is a brand anyway? Well, a brand is basically still the idea in someone's mind about the way that they feel or their perception of you or your company or whatever else. And so if I say a bunch of company names, Walmart, Amazon, Nike, Apple, there's something that comes into your mind. It may be positive, it may be negative, it might be something that is visceral and right at the, like tip of your tongue where you could actually articulate how you feel, or it might be a little bit more subtle than that. They say that effective advertising doesn't mean that when someone goes to the store, they think, I want to buy Coca-Cola because it's the best tasting soda. It's more effective when they just subconsciously reach for the Coca-Cola as opposed to any of the other competitors. And so that's sort of the value in building a brand. But how this relates to what we're talking about is a brand for you or for your company and your business, even if you're a solopreneur, is your ability to sort of carve out a market, carve out a tribe, carve out a group of people that follow you that are interested in what you have to offer. And so, essentially, that's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about a brand. So we aren't talking about big institutional things with fancy logos and, all this other stuff. We're just talking about the ability to get people to recognize you or your brand and have a desire to want to do business with you or be engaged with you. They want to hear what you have to say. They want to follow what you're posting. They want to know what it is you think and how you feel. They want to buy your products. They want to get closer to you in some way, whether it's sort of through your products and services or whether it's through your content or whatever else it is that you're offering. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about a brand, keeping it down to earth sort of on the normal person level as opposed to the gazillion-dollar company level. Now, why is that important? Why right now is building a brand important, and why would we even talk about this? Well, the reason that we've seen sort of a huge growth in talking about branding is because in today's day and age, the level of competition is off the charts. And this is both online and offline. As the world has become more global and as the lines have blurred in terms of where we can do business, it's created greater opportunities, but it's also invited additional competition. So now for every product, for every service, it's a lot faster to duplicate, it's a lot faster to clone, competitors can get into the market. All those barriers to entry that used to exist to build a business, where if you had enough of a lead on somebody, you were pretty safe for a little while, all that stuff is gone. And that's for better and worse. If we're good at taking advantage of that, then it's better. If we're vulnerable to it, then it's worse. So we always have to be aware, we always have to be alert. So the reason it's super important to build a brand is because when you're trying to compete in a very crowded marketplace and you're trying to get people to listen to your message and buy your products and services, if there isn't anything that differentiates you, if there isn't anything that makes people want to hear from you or want to buy your stuff as opposed to just something that does the same thing, well, anybody else who has a brand is automatically going to be ahead of you. They're automatically going to beat you. But it goes beyond that. If you're trying to compete in a crowded marketplace and you're coming in as a player and you don't have any sort of track record, you don't have any sort of leverage or credibility in that marketplace, the problem that you have is it's a really tough go to try to generate enough interest and excitement to get people interested in what you have to offer. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and everything else. When you have a brand, the benefit is all of your costs go down. Your advertising cost drops. Your marketing cost drops because there's a built-in audience that wants what you have. So your sales increase, your revenue increases, your profits increase, the prices you can charge goes up. So every single thing about it, when you have a brand, makes you more effective, more competitive, and more secure in whatever business line that you're in. Because make no mistake about it, it doesn't matter, how good things are today. If there's money to be made in whatever industry you're in, and it's easy money, people will be in it before long and they will be saturating it. They will be finding ways to milk every last dime, nickel, and dollar out of that. And so if you aren't competitive and you don't have a brand and you're just sort of like, well, I'm lucky because I'm in this marketplace and everybody really likes my stuff, I'm able to make a lot of sales pretty easily, that may not always be the case. So that's why building a brand is important. If you are the generic, so to speak, you will have a harder time because building a brand has become so much easier. To compete with Nike, you would need a gigantic budget, right? You would need all of these other things, and it's going to be a very difficult thing to do. To compete on a smaller scale in an online marketplace is easy because there's very little cost associated with getting involved. And now you can build a brand doing it with your own home computer, a home, video camera setup, and a microphone, right? You can create content, or a keyboard, right? A computer. You can write content, you can create content, you can do all these different things. So whoever is consistent about it, whoever is disciplined and committed to it, can build a brand. And so because of that, there is no place that's safe unless you're doing it yourself. And so building a brand is super, super important. Now, what are we talking about when we say the difference between a personal and business brand? So this is what sort of the crux of the podcast is. I thought it was really important to share with you the background about branding so we all understand how important it is. But now, what about the difference between a personal and a business brand? What is the difference? Well, first off, the difference is if it's personal, it's about you. It's your name, it's your face, it's, your personality, and it's all about you. And so there's benefits and there's drawbacks to that. If it's about your business and your brand, or your business rather, then it's more about that company name. It's more about, their color scheme. It's more about whatever they stand for and whatever, products and services you sell and whatever sort of value you add in that particular way. So it's less personal, but it's also, more along the lines of business. So for me, when I was starting my podcast, I had to make a decision, right? I had to decide what I wanted to do in terms of branding, because I had an option that I could have made it the Brett Ingram Show or, Brett Ingram Unplugged or whatever other crazy name I could come up with. And that could have been my podcast, right? And there's benefits to that. But also I could have done optYOUmize, which is what I chose to do, which makes it more about a third-party brand. And I had a really hard time deciding this because I was like, well, geez, on the one hand, if I have the brand built around me, the benefit is all of that sort of crowd and following and all that goodwill that I create comes with me. If I build it about a brand, then it all goes with the brand. It's not that I'm not associated. I mean, obviously I am, but at the same time, it's more about the brand. And so there are pros and cons of each, and this is the important thing to weigh, because you're going to sort of build a little bit of both at the same time anyway, but you really want to focus on one or the other. So with a personal brand, one of the benefit is that, that following is connected to you. So wherever you go, whatever you do, wherever you end up, all of those people are going to be interested in hearing what you have to say. If you close your business and start a new one, if you partner with somebody else, if you move continents, no matter what you do, where you go, your tribe, your group, your following will want to hear what you have to say. They'll follow you. So in that way, you have sort of your own built-in audience no matter where you go. The downside of the personal brand is that it's very personal. If you enjoy your anonymity, if you enjoy your freedom and you don't want to always be under the microscope, then you may not want to have a personal brand about yourself. Because the fact is, once you have that, people have certain expectations. If you watch TV at all, there are characters that actors play on TV. And it always amazed me, the fact that I remember, I'm dating myself a little bit, but when I was younger, in my college days, the show 90210, Beverly Hills 90210 was out. And it was like the teenage soap opera sitcom thing with all these heartthrobs in it and everything else. But the mean girl was played by Shannon Doherty, and her name was Brenda, I think it was. So the thing that amazed me was the actress, Shannon Doherty, would actually get letters threatening her because of her character that she played on TV, and they didn't like what her character was doing. People couldn't disassociate the fact that she's playing a role. That isn't who she is. She's playing a role that was written for her, and all she's doing is acting it. But that shows you the power of how that goes. You see a persona, right, on TV of somebody, and that starts to be how you associate them to be. If you think about actors and actresses, you probably have your impressions of them in your mind. This person seems really nice. This person seems like a jerk. Are they really? Who knows? Who knows? If they're playing roles, it may have nothing to do with how they actually are. And that's really important. And I'll give you an example that actually relates exactly to this in terms of personal branding. So I know somebody, it doesn't matter how, who was dating somebody whose family had a very successful YouTube channel. And it was a YouTube channel made around making like home videos and things like that. But they had a pretty wholesome image. And I remember it shocked me because she was not allowed to have any personal photos taken of her, personal videos. She was only allowed to dress and act a certain way in public and all these other things per her family because of the fact that they didn't want to tarnish their brand. Now, this is a teenage girl who basically, sure, she's, reaping the fruits and rewards of being, a social media celebrity or whatever you want to call it. But the fact of the matter is, she's also a prisoner to it because she has no anonymity. When she goes out, the family is always worried that if she did anything that was contrary to their image that they built through their YouTube channel, that it would cost them money. It would cost them views. It would cost them followers, because those people would think, oh, they're not what we thought they were. And so with a personal brand, the one thing you need to be conscious of is if it doesn't align with who you are, if you're putting on a show or you're pretending to be something that you're not, it can be very difficult to keep that up. And so that's one of the downsides of a personal brand, because as you start to grow it, there are going to be certain expectations of you. And so the positive is you got this following that'll go with you to the ends of the earth. The negative is there's expectations, there's rules, there's limits on what you can do because of it. And so that's sort of the deal with that. The other problem with a personal brand is it's not transferable. So if you are selling products and services and things like that, and eventually it's something maybe you'd want to cash out of, you're going to struggle with that. Because unless you continue to promote it, somebody else buying it is not going to have the same benefit. They aren't going to have the same pull with that audience. So that's the other issue. Now, if we flip it and we start to look at a business brand, right? So what are the pros of a business brand? Well, obviously, it's focused solely on the business. So the one benefit is it's very easy to do shameless plugs and all sorts of other marketing stuff because it's about your business. You don't ever need to feel like sheepish about pushing things or pitching things or whatever, because that's what people expect. You're a business, you have products and services to sell, so you could be a little bit more obvious and overt in terms of doing product pitches and things like that. The other thing is it's super targeted and focused. Whatever your product is, whatever your niche is going to be all of where your content and all of where your brand is going to focus. And so the following you're going to attract is going to be specific to that particular thing, and it's going to be a targeted audience of prospects and customers that all want whatever product or service or benefit your products and services offer. So that's really nice as well. Another huge pro, as we just alluded to the flip side on the personal brand, is with a business brand, it's transferable. So if you build a social media profile for your business and you build that up by posting content and everything else, and then eventually you want to transition to move into something else, you could sell the business with that whole brand and social media presence with it. Somebody will gladly buy it because it isn't tied to you personally. They're going to be able to pick that up and run where you left off. So it's very easy for them to be able to do that, continue the success, and continue the track record of the branding within that particular business. The downside, obviously, right on the flip of that, is it doesn't travel with you. If now you're sort of a faceless person behind a particular brand and all the postings that you're doing are based on your brand, you may have some connection. They might see you on a video or in an ad or something like that, but it's not going to be nearly as strong or as strong of a connection as it's going to be with the business. And so if you do sell it, or if you do move away from it or want to transition, you're going to need to build up a new audience in whatever it is that you're doing, because that audience isn't going to travel with you, right? You aren't going to be able to just say, okay, well now I'm into, I was into gardening tools, now I'm into makeup. So, let's go over and everyone's going to run over there with you too. It's going to be a different audience. So those people are not going to be as interested. You'll have a track record because you'll have done it. So you'll still have some advantages, but you will have to start over. The other benefit of a business brand is anonymity. If you want to be the Oz behind the curtain, pulling the strings and pushing the levers, but you want to be able to travel freely, be yourself, do whatever you want, go crazy, and not ever having to worry about that coming back to bite you, then if you're building a business brand, there's going to be far less impact or effect, provided you don't do anything completely off the wall and nuts. But as long as you're within the realm of doing things that are normal, you have a lot more freedom. You have a lot more anonymity. People are much less likely to recognize you or connect with you on a personal level. And so in that particular way, the business brand gives you that benefit as well. So the decision that we all have to make is, which of the brands is better for us? Do we want to build a personal following that will go with us, but that also might limit us a little bit? but give us a lot of security long term? Or do we want to build a business brand where we can maintain our own privacy, our own personal life, and all of those things, and build a particular business? But then if we decide to transition later, we may need to start over. And so those are the decisions to weigh. And it's super important that you pick the one that makes the most sense and that you go all in on it. Because you want to build a brand so you have the ability to compete long term and be successful in whatever market you're in. So the takeaway here is that whether we choose to build a personal brand or a business brand, we should all be doing one or the other and should make it an absolute top priority. As the online world becomes more and more competitive, and offline also, and it gets increasingly harder to get attention and to keep it, our personal brand or our business brand is how we stand out in the crowd. It's how we differentiate ourselves and connect and resonate with our prospects and customers. And ultimately, our ability to build our personal or business brand may be the difference between long-term success and failure.